I find it extremely, and I do mean extremely hypocritical, that we have people that are trying to make my assumptions punishable, right? Assuming that they were assumptions, but they're actually accurate, but people keep trying to make it look like I'm a liar because they have so many people working together that will make that will lie to try to make it look like I'm lying, but I'm not actually lying because they know that I can't actually prove it because I don't have any resources and things of that nature. It's not that I'm making assumptions, it's that I'm actually telling the truth, and then people know that I don't have a way to prove the proof. I don't have a way to prove it, right? So that's why I now have to stop speaking about certain things because I'm seeing the way the world operates and how they just lie, and lie for absolutely no reason, right? To try to make people seem to be false servants of God or false evangelists or false prophets and things of that nature. So I now have to be careful. What I wanted to say though is that I find that it is extremely hypocritical for people to try to make it look like I'm being punished, right? Based on assumptions, okay? That anytime that I so-called assume anything and people come and they lie to try to make it look like it's an assumption, that means that God is punishing me somehow by means of putting stuff in my food. God is not punishing me by putting stuff in my food, right? Someone else is putting stuff in my food because they figure, well, she's making assumptions and we're just going to write that off as, well, she's been that's a false witness, and God says God says he don't like false witnesses because she told us what God likes when she took us to the scripture, and it said that there were 7 things that God hate that he considers to be detestable. One of those things would be somebody that causes discord within the family, bearing false witness and things of that nature. So somebody was like, well, she took us to that scripture. So what we're going to do is every time she says something, right, even though we know that it is true, we're going to send people to try to counteract what she said to make it look like she's lying. And then we're going to put stuff inside of her food, right, to make it look like it is God punishing her. That's what we're going to do. That's what's been taking place, by the way, not what they have done, but what they have already done. So now I can't say certain things. So I find that it is hypocritical that we have someone out here trying to make it look like I am being a false witness and God is punishing me based on assumptions that I am making. However, the entire world is assuming that I am trying to steal somebody's husband. The entire world is assuming that I am a home wrecker without stepping in people's homes. The entire world is assuming, right, that I am doing stuff that I'm not even doing just based on my playlist from YouTube, based on the things that I listen to, right? And I find it hypocritical that those individuals are not being held accountable for their assumptions, right? Based on a playlist, even though I keep letting it come out of my mouth. I don't want anybody right now. I don't want to be with nobody right now. I only want to focus on myself. I only want to focus on my schoolwork, and I only want to be financially stable. That's the only thing that I want, right? Those are the only things that I'm focused on. Right now, I'm in debt, so I have to try to get out of debt, right? But for some reason, people are like, well, we're not going to go off what she's saying. We're going to go off what we assume that she actually means. We're going to go off what we think we know based on the information that we are gathering from her algorithm. And then we're going to use that as a means to punish her. But even though they're making assumptions, I don't see nobody else being punished for their false assumptions. That's why I have to be careful of the things that I say. I felt the need to say that because I am very bothered by the fact that people keep making assumptions and they're not being punished. And I am clearly stating some of the stuff that I want. And for some reason, I'm being punished. I would like to stop being punished for things that I am not doing. I would like to stop being punished, right, for things that other people are doing. I am not the liar. They are. I can make a decision today and then change my mind in 5 minutes because I did not make a vow to do anything. I am just brainstorming on what I want to do. And at this time, I feel like I want to do this. And then 10 minutes later, God says, well, this makes more sense. How about you do this? And then I say, okay, I changed my mind. Or tomorrow I may say, well, I feel that based on the circumstances and the situation that is presented before me, I can no longer stick to what I thought I wanted to do yesterday because the situation has now changed and I have to do what is in the best interest for myself. Need I mind you, I did not make any vow to God. I am just brainstorming. I think this is what I want to do. I do not swear or make promises to God that I do not stick to. Nor have I made any promises or vows to any person that I do not stick to. One, I don't owe anybody anything. And it still would be completely different than if I went and made a vow, right? I'm not married. And if someone makes a vow, it is not the person that they have done wrong to. It is God that they did wrong to because they made the vow for God to acknowledge it. But people get it mixed up because people have this God-like complex where they feel like I am God. So anytime you say something to me and you don't do it, then I have the right to punish you. Wrong. If people weren't so well connected, you will see just how little people will actually be punished. Someone has a right. I like to use marriage because that's the easier one, right? If I go and I make a marriage vow to someone and then I break that vow, what that person has the right to do, that person has the right to go to God and say, this person made a vow to me before you. The emphasis, the important part, the significant part is before you, God. And I held them to that vow because I too am a believer in God. And we made this vow together. We agreed upon it in the name of Jesus. And they broke it, which means that they are now sinning against God. And they have sinned against me because I too believe in the same God and we both made the same vow, right, before God. So when one person breaks the vow, I go to God and I say, you broke that vow. It is a sin according to God, because we were in agreement that we were going to do X, Y, and Z, and God acknowledged the vow that we made. And I take that case to God, and then I let God be the one to pass judgment, however he see fit to do so. But I myself do not take the action. This is what I want to share. I myself do not take the action in punishing the individual. That does not mean that I have a right to put something in their gas tank. Well, they broke their vow, God will honor it. It does not mean that I have a right to put something in their food. It does not mean that I have a right to beat on them, to try to beat them into submission. It does not mean that I have a right to harm them in any way because they broke their vow. The action is not on the individual. The action is on God. God would do what he do. He will figure out a way. If it is honorable, he will make it come to pass. Whatever it is he feel that will cause correction in that individual, he will do it. Through anyone he sees fit to do it. Priest or whatever it is, whoever it is, right? He chooses to do. He say, hey, you have the authority X, Y, and Z. This person needs correction. So right? Okay, you got that. The reason why I state that because for some reason people feel like if I say anything that comes out of my mouth, right, they will consider it to be a vow. And I have not made not one vow. I have not made not one oath. I have not swear not one thing to God nor to man. But people feel like they are God. And if she says something, then we have a right to hold her to it. No. I have a right to change my mind whenever I feel like it. When I make a vow, I am now serious. I go before God and I say, this is my vow. That means that I accept all consequences that comes with me breaking my vow to God. For example, you have people, Nazarites. They caused their people to make vows when they were growing up that they can't drink alcohol. I myself consider this to be premature because this is a generational vow that is placed upon children from generation to generation without them even knowing the consequences or the risk that could come behind them breaking the vow. Without them even experiencing life, they don't even know what will take place in their life, but they have to honor an oath and a vow, right? They don't have to. They could go to God and they can say, God, hey, this is a generational vow that I did not sign up for. My mother did X, Y, and Z. So and so, so and so. It's so much stuff that can go into it, but I'm trying not to go all into it. The point I'm trying to make is that these vows, right? It is not upon man, right, to be like, oh, they broke this vow, I'm going to punish them. If you make a vow to man, it is supposed to be to someone that is considered to be of a spiritual authority, like a priest or something like that. Hey, I made this vow. I speak from a Christian standpoint, but I don't really like to speak from other standpoint because I don't want to really, share with people loopholes and stuff like that. I'm not trying to give people loopholes. I'm not doing that. Right. But as a Christian, say, hey, go to a priest or whatever it is, I made this vow. If I made a vow between me and God, right, you don't have to go necessarily to a priest. Maybe it could be a private vow. But that's becoming even more difficult because you got people that are listening to private conversations. You got AI, you got all kind of stuff that's in your house, Alexa and stuff like that that's listening to conversations. So it makes it more difficult, which is why people need to learn how to pray in their mind as well as speaking out loud. Because then if you make a vow, right, to God in your mind, nobody knows about what the vow is. And if you break that vow, then that means that the consequence that came behind anything that goes wrong or something like that, that came directly from God and not man violating somebody's privacy. So I say all of this to say, right, for people that have a God-like complex, you are not God, right? You cannot hold someone to something that they have not considered to be a vow. It must come out of my mouth. I consider this to be a vow. It must come out of my mouth. I consider this to be an oath. And you can't sit there and punish someone based on your assumption of what you think they possibly mean. They need to let it be known what they mean. So that means trying to punish me for something that I did not do is a sin. Because you couldn't possibly know what's in my heart unless I tell you. And even still, you don't even know what's actually in my heart. Only God really knows what's in my heart, which means that you will be sinning. The same thing goes for people, right? When you make an assumption and then you act on that assumption, you are sinning. And if I make an assumption and then I act on that assumption, I am sinning, which is why I do the very best I can to make sure I communicate very well to people. Because I don't like to leave room for assumptions. And I don't like to play games to try to mentally play games to make people say, oh, I'm going to make them think that this X, Y, and Z so that when they act, then I have a reason to curse them. That is also a sin. Because how that's a sin? That's a sin because you are consciously aware of what you are trying to do. That means your heart is distorted. That means that you want to bring harm to somebody as opposed to liberating them and setting them free. Which means that your heart is corrupt. That is a sin. So I don't leave room for assumptions. I'm pretty direct most of the times. Not all the times, as a matter of fact, too direct, apparently, because people don't like honesty. But I'm not going to change. I don't like to leave room for assumptions because I am not looking to try to have a reason to punish or curse or harm somebody. This is not what I want. So I want to make sure I'm very clear. So when I'm very clear, whatever takes place, I can say, God, I did X, Y, and Z. And this is still taking place in my life. That means that I fully know that this individual was fully aware of their actions and they chose to do the exact opposite of what God told them to do. So assumptions is a key word, a key part of what is taking place in this world today. I'm watching people, getting people to assume things, and then they act on that assumption, and then now they are give their enemies the legal right to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do in their life. For example, you make the assumption that because you had a dream that somebody was talking about you, that means you need to cut them off. You don't even know where the dream came from. You don't even know if it's true. And instead of taking your time to even see the truth, to speak with the individual, to get the facts, you decided you just going to cut them off and mistreat them and dog them out and give them all type of looks and trash talk their name and make everybody not like them and X, Y, and Z. You, my friend, are in the wrong. You are sinning. So assumptions seems to be the strategy of the devil, not just in my life, but in the lives of many, many, many other people. So we need to go over assumptions and what it means to assume. Eventually, I'm going to go over it, but right now I just wanted to share this video, right? Because it's in I needed to make a video for my YouTube. I really don't want to be seen, but I don't really have a choice. right? So I'm going to do the best I can to slowly walk myself into that process, because I do like to kind of stay under the radar and stay behind the scenes, right? I like it a lot because I like being authentic. I like to be truthful, and I like to, be honest and things of that nature that I feel is distorted the moment you get in front of a camera, because you have to learn how to be in front of cameras and stuff like that, right? And then you have to learn how to, speak a certain way when you're in front of a camera, because once you start talking, you just talk. You talk, you talk, you talk, you talk, you talk. And before you know it, you've said something that you're not supposed to say, because you're focused on trying to make sure you're camera ready and not focus on the word that you are speaking while you are on camera. There's a difference. So that's why I don't really like being in the front. And I like being able to speak to people one-on-one, right? Because you get to be more genuine that way. You're not worried about what everybody else thinking, what they're perceiving it to be, right? You're not worried about protecting your image. You're not being defensive or offensive or whatever it is. It's just you and the individual. That's why I like being behind the scenes. But apparently, I don't really get a choice or a matter in to say what I really like and what I really don't like, and what I want to do and what I don't want to do. So I'm slowly walking myself into the world that God says that I am going to be in, according to how He say that I need to do it. Assumptions is what cause a lot of people to make a lot of mistakes in their life, and they are giving their enemies a foothold to do whatever it is that they want to do regarding that individual whom they have targeted, because they have made assumptions. This is why it's good to be disciplined. And the first way to be disciplined, right? I always say start by working out. It teaches you how to be disciplined, because nobody likes to work out. So if you can find a way to work out, to discipline yourself to work out, that discipline will ricochet, or it will roll over into other aspects of your life, like maybe going to school, like maybe, retraining your children or training your children, teaching them, or maybe friendships, right? Teach you how to be disciplined, when to hang out, when not to hang out, teach you how to be disciplined, when to have a drink, when not to have too many drinks. It rolls over into other aspects of your life. That's why I'm always such an advocate for go work out, because it teaches you other things besides just getting your body in shape. So assumptions is the word of the week.